Hello, and welcome to Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. A lot's happened since we've been away. New York City Mayor Eric Adams was indicted on federal corruption charges. This is the most trouble a former police officer has been in without shooting someone who's unarmed. Who knew that when he said he wanted to take out crime in New York City, he meant he wanted to take himself out? At this point, Eric Adams is so hated that even the universe is telling him, even we don't want you in elected office anymore. North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson was hospitalized after receiving a second-degree burn. That will teach him to be the first African-American to light a cross on fire.
Ow.
Actually, he was... The DMs are going to light up when that one goes out. Actually, he was treated after he grabbed an exhaust pipe while admitting he didn't want to run into his fans and supporters, which just goes to show even Mark Robinson thinks his own supporters are pieces of shit. Of course, I'm sure that we all wish Mark Robinson a speedy recovery, and that when he watches porn again, he'll be able to spank off with his other hand. Donald Trump held a press conference in Georgia following Hurricane Helene. His staff surrounded his podium with bricks from a damaged building, presumably because there weren't enough human skulls available. Donald Trump is opening a second golf course in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. This worries Melania because now Trump has a place to bury her. When Trump claimed that the government was taking money from disaster relief and redirecting it to help migrants, CNN fact-checked it by saying this wasn't actually happening and that Trump was the president who tried to move funds from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to other programs of his choosing. And when I heard that, I was shocked that CNN still has fact-checkers. The final athletics baseball game took place at Oakland Coliseum. Watching a shitty team play right before they leave is the equivalent of making your kid go with you to the vet where they're going to put down the family pet. To me, athletics fans are the Kristi Noem of baseball fans. A Republican House candidate posed for a photo in his campaign literature with a family that turned out to be his friend's wife and kids. Posing with a family that wasn't his? Normal people call that a hostage situation. And how do you ask to borrow someone's family? And who would be desperate enough to do that? What favor must be called in to make that happen? Hey, Jim, remember when it took you a while to get me that power drill back? I know a way you can do repay that for me. And on that note, on with the show. Please join me in welcoming Gina Brown, Polite Kitty, Tiffany Norton, and Jess Feeney.
Yay.
Hey,
Everyone, welcome back. What's everyone been up to these past couple weeks?
Panicking. Sorry.
We've all been doing that.
Passport updating.
Right, yeah. Making plans.
Not visiting relatives in West Virginia.
Yeah.
There are a number of differences between the two vice presidential candidates, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. The biggest difference is that while they are both dads, Tim Walz is the dad who would teach you to drive a stick shift, while J.D. Vance would do so while holding you at gunpoint. The only vice presidential debate of the season was hosted by CBS News. CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell and Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan were moderators of the debate. There were no supporters, campaign staff, or audience allowed to be in attendance, thus making Tim Walz the only one in the room not wearing makeup. One of the most notable differences between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance is their personality, which came into play at the simple task of ordering donuts, as we can see in these two side-by-side comparisons occurring a month before the debate.
Good morning. Perfect day.
How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Good, yeah.
Oh man, it's smelling good.
There are 3 states that lay claim to the whoopie pie: Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Maine.
So who has
Pennsylvania.
All right, that's what I needed to know. That's what we needed to know.
So
Is it sacrilegious to move away from chocolate, or is that acceptable?
We're a big fan of pumpkin.
We're
in this
pumpkin.
family.
Yeah,
We're
big fan.
Pumpkin people.
All right.
All right, I think that's what we're going to do.
I think-
Peaches too. That's what I said.
Yes.
The peaches.
I could balance it out to have a nutritional diet. I said, look at me. I have no problem picking out donuts.
So we take our apple cider donut, cut it in half, put the whoopie pie filling in.
Sold.
Right.
So I got the best of both together. There's a lot of good things about campaigning. This is right there. This is it. So we're going to ring this up.
Hello. Hi.
I like your optimism, thinking that they're going to stay in the box for very long. So, I know.
How are you? Good, good. The zoo has come to town. Thank you for letting us come in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It looks like is everybody else in here? All right, one of the few. Okay. So we are, let's see. We're going to get, how many people, Nick? How many donuts do we need to get?
I would get a couple dozen, sir.
A couple dozen? Okay. I'm sorry, Nick? Okay, yeah. She doesn't want to be on film, guys, so just cut her out of anything. Appreciate that, man. I'm Katie Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay.
How long are you working?
I've been here since the beginning of July
Okay.
of this year.
Okay, good. How about you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay, good. How long is it?
Everything.
Just everything, yeah. I mean, a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff, some of these cinnamon rolls, just whatever makes sense.
The last time I saw something like that, I was working at a convenience store that sold alcohol, and I was refusing to serve someone.
It was just, he's like some sprinkle stuff. Yeah, I don't know what that's
Sprinkle
called.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't know what a donut is.
That circular bread looks like it's got something shiny on it. Yeah, I'll have that.
Why didn't he go into a gun store or somewhere like that he feels safe? Like something because he clearly doesn't like food, it doesn't.
I just
he
think
doesn't.
He's
He's
so
not excited.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
it's
I don't know what planning went into that. It just,
I'll have some of these ammunition pellet things.
Right.
One of those scope-looking things as well. I'll take those.
Jess, I don't know that he'd do better with bullets.
yeah, he would still have to talk to people.
He would. He just
Yeah.
would be alone somewhere with a couch. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he going to lie about how many people were actually there? Because there was nobody in that donut store compared to where Waltz was.
How many people are here? And his staff is like, just me. Just me.
Did you notice too? I mean, I know I made a face during the recording, but the gal behind the counter, she's like, I don't want to be on film.
Not with you.
And then but then she didn't even know who he was. Because then he said, I'm running for vice president. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like, I don't like you.
She's like, tell it walking. And
Donut.
I don't right. And we don't need somebody stupid who doesn't know what a donut is to run for vice president.
Yeah, he thought that he was announcing to her that he was running for vice president was going to move the needle, and she's like, no, don't care.
Don't care.
He's definitely not used to that kind of a reaction from women, I don't think.
No,
he is. He's used to it.
Yeah, he is.
He just hasn't been since high school. The couch is more forgiving.
That's okay, I'm a guy, and we're not usually the best at picking up signals from women. I'll be the first to admit that before all you throw that in my face. But it's even I would recognize that as a lack of interest. And I'm not that well in tune with people.
Well, I mean, the guy wasn't interested either.
So he is just because he is profoundly uninteresting. And they didn't plan, like, you can see there's a clear difference between the place Tim Walz was at and the place where he was at. Not like denigrating it all, but like, I don't think that was like a fixture of the community where they're used to having tourists and like telling their story. That looks like a Dunkin' Donuts. And they're probably fucking underpaid and annoyed, and their job probably sucks, and they don't want to like deal with all of his bullshit.
And they have to go home and do homework. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
No.
Despite CBS News saying they were not going to do any on-air fact-checking during the debate, their immediate suspension of that rule and the reaction from J.D. Vance was worth it in this contentious moment.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
I hope that donut lady was the one who cut off the mic. I hope they gave her that job.
Right. Thank you for mansplaining.
Yeah. I just love Walz's face, like Governor Walz's face. I mean, you could just see the look of like, I so badly want to give this guy detention after school.
Yeah.
It's true. His whole face, he just looks like a football coach the whole time. Like, oh, wait until we get the defense on the field.
He looks like he's ready to go. Like his face is just like, huh, like, put me in. Like, you know, he's
right.
I got this. Put me in. Like,
what I think happened is that J.D. Vance was fact checked by the moderators, which they said they weren't going to do it on the air, but well, okay, that in my opinion that needed to happen. Then it sounded like he fact checked himself, and then Walz fact checked him again. So he was trying to come off as this, he was trying to come off as he's fighting the media elites and everything, but he ended up owning himself.
My favorite line was, well, since y'all are going to fact check me, let me say what's really going on. Like, I know that's not what he said, but it sounded like he's like, oh, well, if you're going to fact check, then let me tell the truth for a second. Like, I was just going to lie. But since we are now fact checking.
Exactly. Might as well double down. Well, and Margaret Brennan, she interviews everybody in Washington. You can't be anywhere in Washington without sitting down with Margaret Brennan. So when they said that they weren't going to fact check, I'm like, what? And then I saw it was her. I'm like, well, she doesn't need a fact checker. Like, she's there every Sunday. She's talking to all these guys and argues with them all the time. I knew she was going to get to cut that mic off. I'm excited.
Despite the joint ticket, J.D. Vance appeared more reasonable compared to Trump. Admittedly, that's a low bar, much like an open mic comic going on a racist rant, followed by someone who keeps saying, give it up for the troops. That led to this compilation of reviews of the debate.
There is no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate.
Does Governor Walz have a problem with the truth? No.
They were talking at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right. And the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting.
But at the beginning, the two issues driving the campaign right now are Harris has a big deficit on the economy. Harris has a big deficit on immigration. And Republicans were happy tonight and Democrats a little bit nervous that on those two issues, Vance carried it.
J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 And no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity, is it someone should have said, stop it, stop. Are you effing kidding me? And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just, this is a debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference.
Much more experienced of a public speaker. Like J.D. Vance was a corporate shill, and Tim Walz was he was a fucking teacher.
Yeah, I hate these people. I hate these people so much.
Yeah, he's just smooth. You know what I mean?
Is he smooth? I feel like I'm on crazy pills when I hear this coverage. Is he smooth? He's fucking
Slick.
Weird. He's not slick. He's slimy. Like he's a little fucking weirdo. I don't know. I don't see it.
No, I hear smooth like oil, right? Like that's what I mean. Yeah.
Slick. What you mean?
Greasy.
He's slick.
He's greasy.
Greasy. He is greasy.
Despite his coherence when compared to the top of the Republican ticket, J.D. Vance was still not able to acknowledge the Trump 2020 loss, or even that he would be willing to overturn the results of a documented fair election. Of course, researchers don't have to go far, as this clip was from a podcast recording post-running mate selection.
He was asked to not certify it.
Sure.
So would you have certified? I'll ask you for the third.
Again,
time.
I would have asked the states to submit alternative slates of electors and let the country have the debate about what actually matters and what kind of an election that we had.
You wouldn't have
important
certified,
states.
to be clear.
I would have asked the states to submit alternative slates of
I think
electors. That's what I would have done. Again, I've said that publicly many times.
I mean, for someone who the couch story has been disproven by Snopes and the Associated Press, sitting on that couch, he really did look more comfortable with denying elections and saying he would overturn a fair election.
Wow.
He just felt safe in a place where he knew he wasn't going to be fact checked.
Right. Well, although he kind of was, because he was like, so what you're saying is, and he's like, what I'm saying is, as soon as the hands come up, it's over. You know.
But see, this guy is so good at like not backing himself into anything. And that is the lawyer. He I would have said to send it back to the states and have them debate what kind of election they had. Wait a minute. The election already occurred.
Right. There's
no debates about what kind of election we have. You're just making up clauses and all that stuff. But
we take care of that at the polls. Right. Right. I don't know. Yeah, you're giving him credit, Tiff. I would not.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that want to put their meat hooks into something because they don't want to abandon the Republican Party right now. And he helped that considerably because he at least seems, we know differently in our hearts, but I'm, my parents are deeply conservative and I am in Wisconsin and it is seriously, it's 50-50 and I do not know in this state. And, he's hard to fact check because he just won't answer. Like when he talked about the migrant thing, they're like, well, we've proven that, law enforcement never had any reports of those instances. And he's like, that's what I'm saying. He's like, there weren't any reports until I started talking about it. And it's like, you know what I mean? He picks up his lie with another lie and it confuses.
I do. And I do think that he was trying to pretend that he's sort of middle. And I believe it is when he threw in the fact that both of his parents were Democrats. He threw that in that debate. It was related to literally nothing. And he's like, raised by 2 Democrat parents or something like that. And I think he was throwing that in to say, see, I could be a centrist if I need to be. But he also helped put out Project 2025. So he is not a good person, and I won't give him the benefit of the doubt at all.
I don't either. I feel like he's absolutely a liar and a salesman. He's going to say whatever he needs to say to get elected. But what he was doing was strategic. In his mind, he knows the odds of Trump losing are 50-50. And he's thinking about his run.
Right, of course.
That's what that was. That's why they kept thanking each other. I'm really glad you asked me that question. Yeah. But it's funny you said that. And I showed you guys because I keep getting all these mailers. Now Trump on one of his postcards, now there's the Israel. And it's all in the color blue.
Jeez.
Not red.
Oh,
you see they're playing. They're playing.
I see it.
They're
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Look, I know our phones and stuff and devices are listening, but yet I keep getting Trump ads during my football games. I wish they would stop. I don't ever see I'm talking about him too much. Let's talk about more about Harris and Walls. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
get
want
both.
more
I get
targeted ads.
Trump
I get
doesn't know
nothing in
me.
the mail for Trump. It would not work in this zip code. But
I think Trump's interrupting your football because he just doesn't know football. That guy you could never talk sports with him. Could you ever just like talk sports? Tom, do you think you could talk baseball with Trump? Do you think he knows anything about baseball?
Or Vance. Oh,
Vance didn't even play T-ball.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Vance gives off like male cheerleader vibes.
Yeah.
A junior, a JV male at a community college.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't really have men in the program. It's like, well, I'm going to be here anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
give me an outfit.
He looks like he does the splits at parties to like show that he still can, you know? Like
He's
impress
definitely
everybody.
been hazed. He's definitely been hazed. Yeah.
And pegged.
He's not cool enough to get pegged.
He wants to.
He wishes.
Well, I think that's how we got that Silicon Valley money.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Once one of the standard bearers of the Republican Party, former RNC chair Michael Steele clearly sees that he does not recognize his own party, as is demonstrated in this clip.
Because I don't care where you are on policy. And yes, it's important. We know, oh my God, it's so important. There's so much stuff to get into, from abortion to the economy to what's happening right now in Israel.
And so much stuff they weren't able to get into.
And so
like
much stuff they
Ukraine.
wanted to get into. But folks, you have to fundamentally understand the truth. If you cannot, in 2024, answer that question, you are unfit for office. It doesn't matter what else you did for 90 or 89 minutes. That last minute, you cannot answer that question, because the guy who's watching that you're performing for will kick your behind when you get off that stage, tells me and should tell the country you are unfit for office. So
now, as someone who grew up in Maryland and someone who was in Maryland, remembers Michael Steele when he was the lieutenant governor, it's still, to me, it's still a shock to go ahead and see that transformation.
Yeah, it's been a transformation for a while. And I think I didn't grow up in Maryland, but I've been down here a really long time, long enough to know that he definitely was a Republican. But he was like more of a Reagan-ish kind of Bush kind of Republican. He was not this MAGA thing. And I still didn't care for his politics then. You know, it's so interesting. Like, he's really come around. I don't know why he still claims that he's a Republican, because I don't think he should. Maybe he's independent now, but he's definitely not a MAGA person. But yeah, it was always hard to watch. But he was a Republican when Blacks in general were not ever in the Republican Party. So it was uncomfortable on so many levels to watch, just because you're like, dude, like, you're voting against, your own, like, good fortune.
I don't really know much about this guy, but it's definitely refreshing. And I don't know why these people don't have the same sentiment for every other lie that he told. I mean, I guess because, like, the January 6th is, like, sexier than when you lie about crime and when you lie about immigration and when you lie about fucking everything. But,
well,
like...
Yeah, I think it's in part, I will say, from a Republican perspective, of which I am not, but what I think it is, and never was, what I think it is that something like an insurrection can unite. This sounds crazy, right? Something like an insurrection can unite both parties in the sense that it's wrong, right? No matter what side it should be wrong. And so you can get hyped about that. But when you start getting hyped about immigration and some other things, then you're seen as a little bit soft, and you can't rightly still stand up and be a Republican, right? Because that's not appropriate for you to be socially soft or fiscally soft, even because it costs money to support some of these initiatives.
But it costs money to have empathy for other people.
Right.
Who would have thunk it?
Yes. I mean, and I get it. I get we don't have all the money in the world and the budget, but my gosh, it's okay to stand up and say, I don't agree with this policy or this particular strategy. It's okay.
Well, and they're all politicians, I mean, when it's convenient. And here's the thing. Trump was not what the GOP wanted. That was a pill. That was a decision they made. He said, he's like, I'll run as an independent. I don't care. He kept going through the GOP debates and he was mopping the floor with everybody. And not in a real way, but I mean, he did. And so the people that are like, okay, we're going to pretend like we like this guy and we're going to fly under the radar. Now everybody's coming out because they're thinking about their reelection. They're realizing that this MAGA hold may be crumbling. And the best thing that's ever happened, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened, but the one thing you should be able to the most in times of distress is count on both parties to not be jerks, is all these hurricanes.
Yeah.
And now they're saying like FEMA stealing the money and all that stuff. And it's like, oh man, like your narcissistic projections are getting old, dude.
It's wishful thinking that we can go back to the days when presidential candidates at least wanted to pretend to be normal. Unfortunately, that would mean going back to the days when we had an analyst like former Fox host Bill O'Reilly and his bloviating, as we can see in News Nation's post-debate coverage.
Bill O'Reilly, host of the No Spin News, watched tonight. What was your takeaway, big man?
I fell asleep twice.
Because of your age or because of the debate?
Yeah, it was my age. It was pretty tedious, though. I mean, the healthcare stuff was like, oh.
God.
Yeah, he was probably falling asleep because, he couldn't whack off to anybody during the debate.
He was falling asleep because he was dying. He looks terrible.
Yeah, I don't think he has the ability to whack off to anything.
No.
But I think I heard the other day, who was it? Was it Nicole Wallace? I can't remember, but somebody was trying to explain to as the Gen Zs who Bill O'Reilly was. And he was the Tucker Carlson back in the day,
Right.
Which I think is interesting. And they all know who that is, but it was a VP debate. I mean, in any other time, people are like, oh, that's VP, who cares? Only when it comes to Harris, where they're just she's had 4 years to do it. She's a VP. She's not the president. And people always even Donald Trump has been on record saying, doesn't really matter. The VP doesn't really do anything. Who cares? But so now it's such a big deal. They have this VP debate. We have to decide whose policy, of which neither have any, because they're the VP.
Yeah, I hate to take this tack again because I'm not one of those the media hacks or whatever. I enjoy journalism. I think it's important, but I don't know why that hasn't been brought up more. Because even Vance now, I think he said during the debate, I think he actually used the phrase the Harris administration.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody checks him. And nobody has said at any point, well, she didn't, that's not how the vice presidency works.
But Jess, what you don't understand is that according to J.D. Vance world, Biden's so old that he doesn't know what he's doing. So Kamala Harris is pulling his strings and doing everything. Don't you understand what's going on? That's how,
God damn it.
That's how these people work.
His running mate is the same. It's just as old, right?
And on that note, that's our show. I want to thank Gina Brown, Polite Kitty, Tiffany Norton, and Jess Feeney.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Gina Brown, Polite Kitty, Tiffany Norton, and Jess Feeney. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen van den Hurck. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Myers, for access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, and bonus clips. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.